And that set the core of who I am as a person, how I treat people. That set the foundation for me as a leader, leading with empathy. And before Simon Sinek became popular, I was leading with empathy.
Yeah.
And I love that approach has now become mainstream.
Right. Hands down. Because before it was a little bit cutthroat, right?
Absolutely. There was a very European style leadership in America, and it's not very nice.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Unveiling Journeys, and my name is Tiffany Alexander. I'm happy you're here today. If this is your returning, welcome back. If this is your first time here, I want to tell you a tiny bit. I love the power of networking, the power of masterminds, the power of, oh my gosh, being in a room where you can learn from people that are probably far smarter than you, and that's okay. I don't want to be the smartest person in any room by all means. But also I want people to know I'm an open book. Like, just let's hang out. Who do you need to know that I know? And let's share that so we can all move forward in business. That is exactly how I met Stephen, who's here today with us. I said, who do you know that I need to know? And we got introduced to each other and we've had several amazing chats. And I love what he's about, what he's doing. And so I asked him to come on the show and he gets to hang out with us today. So do me a favor, welcome, Stephen. Thank you so much for coming on the show and tell everybody a little bit about you and what you're up to right now.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited about this. I love doing guest appearances like on shows like yours. And this one, because it's focused on the story and not necessarily business, is going to be great. So a little bit about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur throughout my life, even in grade school when I was selling whatever we were selling, whether it was wrapping paper or candy. I was one of the top salespeople every year. And so I've always loved sales. I've never met strangers. I could walk up to anybody, knock on their door. It didn't matter. I could have a conversation with somebody. And throughout my life, I've had some real jobs, quite a few real jobs, like working for the post office, working for Schwann's, working for Dell. But almost the entire time I've had a regular job, I've also had a side hustle going. So I'm one of those side hustle guys. And currently, so I had a regular job and I was ready to launch a business. And then I got laid off from that job and it delayed my launch, but I've launched. And so we're 16 months into my current venture and I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. And your current adventure, what is that?
So what I'm doing is I'm cutting the clutter for busy CEOs and business owners by finding service providers, vetting them, making sure they're trustworthy, and then I'm putting them together on a platform. So I'm creating a marketplace of services, and all the services on the marketplace focus on helping businesses improve cash flow. We have services that help with expense reductions. We've got revenue improving services and we've got operational improving services. And the key thing is they've already been vetted. So I want CEOs to know that when they come to our marketplace, those service providers are trustworthy.
Yeah, I love that because that's tough to go dig and homework all those people out. It's nice to know you could just come to you and you've probably got someone in your, like, sometimes I call it like a Rolodex of people, but it's really a Rolodex of services for business owners.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's neat. And I'd never heard of this before when I met you. And then my brain just couldn't stop spinning about how cool this thing that you've launched and what it is that you're doing. And then we got to know each other more. So let's do that. Tell me, all right, let's go from the beginning. Where are you from? And like, what did you think you wanted to be when you grew up? Like, what was that? Let's start from all the way at the beginning.
Sure. Yeah. Um, I'm from a little town in Texas, north of Waco. It's called West Texas, home of the best kolaches in the world. And it's a very Czech community and I loved growing up there. And then towards the middle of high school, I moved a little bit further south, closer to Waco. And then my wife and I had a home outside of Waco for 18 years where we had 3 wonderful children who are all adults now. And around 10 years ago, I moved to the Austin, Texas area to work for a tech company. And I spent 8.5 years working for the tech company, and we're still here. We love the little community we landed in. We're in Hutto, Texas, Hutto, the only school district in the United States with a hippo mascot.
HIPAA mascot? Hippo?
Hippo.
Hippo. Here I'm in California. I'm like, HIPAA? I'm like, that's funny. So, whenever you decided to move from where you're at, was that because you got married? Did you go straight out of high school into like any sort of like, what did you do straight out of high school?
Straight out of high school, I went into sales. I tried college. I was hobbling around college campus on crutches because I'd banged up my knee and I was hating it. So I was good at school, but I didn't enjoy school at all. So even though I earned a scholarship to go to our community college, hobbling around on crutches and carrying on all of your books while on crutches was just horrible. And I was already in sales and I was already doing well at sales. And at one point I was making more than the professors. So I chose to become a professional salesperson. So I went right into sales out of high school and really took all of the courses I could find. Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, you name it. I went to their workshops, their masterminds, their courses, their books, listened to cassettes while we were driving around back then. And I became a really good salesperson.
Yeah.
And so I put the effort in, I put the work in, and we called it Highway University, right? And just listening to books on tape and learning as I drove. And that has been the core of my career until my current venture.
Mm. Man, that's fun. Tell us a little bit about that, like first, second, merging into the start of your sales actual career. Cause like I know when we sell wrapping paper and candy bars for our school, like we're real salesmen. Cause I remember exactly when you said selling wrapping paper, like childhood core memories, just walking down, knocking on the, and how did they even trust us back in the day? That was insane to think that was just like, well, there's a kid, neighbor kid selling wrapping paper.
Uh-huh. Well, my first real sales gig was with Amway. So I jumped right into direct sales, and that was pivotal for me because of their really focused training program.
Right.
And they are the ones that got me hooked on books on tape and listening to books while I was driving down the road from appointment to appointment to appointment. And that carried on for years. And Dale Carnegie was also pivotal for me because I got his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I read it every year for a decade. And that set the core of who I am as a person, how I treat people. That set the foundation for me as a leader, leading with empathy. And before Simon Sinek became popular, I was leading with empathy.
Yeah.
And I love that approach has now become mainstream.
Right. Hands down. Because before it was a little bit cutthroat, right?
Absolutely. There was a very European style leadership in America, and it's not very nice.
Yeah.
It's focused on the KPIs, focused on results, and there was no work-life balance. There was no really not a lot of concern for what was happening in someone's personal life. So if their sales numbers tanked, it didn't matter that they had a mother or father in the hospital with cancer. All that mattered was the sales numbers. But
Yeah.
leading with empathy changes all that because your conversation when somebody's sales numbers go down is not, hey, your numbers are down. It's, hey, this is unlike you. What's going on in your life? Is there any way I can help? Because this is out of character for you. And we want to help lift you up.
Yeah. Now, this leading with empathy, since you naturally feel this way, but also you mentioned to me that this isn't the only reason why you lead with empathy. This is part of just the way that you operate in human life, let alone in your business. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'm Christian. And being a Christian, I try to be like Christ. And being like Christ means you treat everybody with respect and care. You lead with love. And there's actually a huge movement right now in the market to allow and encourage people to express their faith at work. And I'm part of that movement. And that's how I operate. That's how I've operated for years now. And while I worked at the tech company, even there was a global tech company, and there's an interfaith employee resource group there that is focused on helping people have conversations about faith respectfully and living out their faith while at work. And they're not the only global company to embrace this at work. There's actually dozens of Fortune 50 companies and Fortune 100 companies that are creating these employee resource groups to encourage expressions of faith at work. Because all the leaders have realized if you ask somebody to check that core part of their personality at the door when they come to work, then they're not going to be as creative or inventive or personable because you've asked them to leave a part of who they are
Wow.
outside. And when you bring all of you to work, your faith is part of that. So whether somebody's Christian or Muslim or Hindu or atheist, because that's a faith, you have to have faith to not believe. And all of these are part of people, and being able to express who we are, that's vital to us, to being successful at our work. As a Christian, I also believe that there are blessings that are poured upon us when we are open with our faith. Christ said to acknowledge me in public, and I'll acknowledge you before the Father. So it's a biblical principle to live out your faith at work. Our work is our worship when we're Christian. So that's part of who we are and part of what we do for the Father.
This has been awesome to hear why that whenever I had a chat with you, that you were open kind of about your faith. And I feel the same. Like, if people want to know what I'm thinking about, there's a scripture that I want to tell you. It's like something has come to me that I feel like I need to leave with people or impress upon people and let them know there's like a safe place to come to me and hang out. And I love that you've lived that through multiple iterations of what your career has been and where it's going continually. Let me circle back around to you went through your first position and your second position. Tell us a little bit more about that journey and like any fun stories behind it.
Yeah. So being in sales, we have some awesome stories, but being a sales leader, you get to hear stories from other people. And that's been the most fun for me is seeing people come up and improve and grow and mature. That's what I get the most fulfillment out of. It's not my story that I love to tell, but other people's stories. And I had a young woman who worked for me once, and she had come from a pretty rough background, and she had worked in our depot for a while, and then she was fired by a previous manager. And then she came back when she heard that I had been promoted to the general manager position. And we talked, and I brought her on, and she flourished under somebody who was supportive. And she just became an amazing salesperson. And I hated when she moved because she got married and they moved away, because I liked working with her because she came out of her shell as a salesperson, as a professional, and just blossomed under proper nurturing, proper leadership. And it was wonderful to see. So that's the kind of example I like to share, is other people's examples. So back to my journey a little bit. I left the network marketing or the direct sales world and moved into a company where I sold fire alarms. I taught fire safety classes, and I loved that because we were really helping people. I got a letter from an elderly woman whose carbon monoxide detector went off in the middle of the night, woke her up, and the fire department said she would have died if she did not have that carbon monoxide detector in her house that I helped install. So that was rewarding. Later on, I worked for the Schwann Food Company, the Schwann's Home Service, and managed that depot. And that was fabulous because it was customer interactions, building relationships with people. And with that particular service, people trusted us. You had to have a high level of trust because they would leave their door open on Schwann's delivery days so that you could put their food in their freezer.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And so, but as a hiring manager, that meant I had to be very careful who I hired because I had to make sure that they were trustworthy. And, kind of ties into what I'm doing now, vetting companies, back then I was vetting employees to try to find the most trustworthy people I could find because I was sending them into people's homes, sometimes unoccupied, unsupervised. So later on, as I mentioned, I got hired at the tech company and I spent 8.5 years there. It was a great learning experience because it was the largest company I'd ever worked for. And I had some great leaders who taught me well and lifted me up. And I had some leaders there that were not so great. And they showed me what not to do. And so you learn from every experience. And I had lots of opportunities to learn there. The leaders that I had under the employee resource group, the Interfaith Employee Resource Group, and I'll call out their names, Sean Trotter, Glenda Cameron, two of the most amazing women I've ever had the privilege of knowing. They are world-class leaders, and being able to serve with them in the Interfaith Employee Resource Group was just such a privilege.
Man, that's cool. So you were there for 8.5 years. And I think that was something you didn't want to leave, but they closed up, right?
They started layoffs in August of 2022, and my
Mm.
team was one of the first to be impacted by the layoffs. And they continued layoffs for about 2 years. They've kind of slowed that down, but I had started putting the foundations to my company together and I was getting ready to launch. My plan was to have my income from that job to take care of my family and support the business while I was growing. And then I got laid off and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? We prayed. What we ended up doing is we waited till the next calendar year when I didn't have income from that job on the tax rolls, and I emptied my 401k. I put all of my chips on the table, went all in, and launched our company the following year.
Oh my goodness. And what's the name of your company?
SRH Business Resource Marketplace. And the website is srhmarketplace.com.
Man, I love that so much. So you launched this business. And meanwhile, how's your wife feeling about this?
Terrified.
My gosh, I can
Terrified.
imagine, right? And you
Yeah.
guys already have how many kids at this point?
Yeah, well, all the kids are grown,
Yeah,
thankfully, but
good.
there's 3 kids, and she's a stability person. She wants that stability, that safe, comfortable nest, and I love and respect that. I'm the total opposite, though. I'm the risk taker. I'm the one who will jump off the high dive and not know exactly where the water level's at. That's who I am, and so it scared the bejesus out of her when we decided to empty the 4K. But we needed that cushion in the bank, and we're still living off that cushion because the company is still young and it's not quite profitable yet, but we're getting close, and that's exciting.
Well, that is exciting. And the companies that you have vetted, it takes a long time to vet someone out. Like you have to make sure that you're willing to put your name as a stamp of approval,
Right? Yeah.
just like back when you have to let someone in someone's house. But that really means a lot, which is why I loved being able to get connected to you because you were you were creating a shortcut for people that could save them time, but also the shortcuts you're creating are helping their bottom line, right? Like tell us a little bit about some of your favorite resources that you have that you love to connect people to and why it means so much to you to keep trying so hard to do all this.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, that all of the services are focused on cash flow in one way or another. And there are several services that we have are contingency services. So clients don't pay anything if there's no benefit to them. And so we will do a discovery and see if we can help them. And if we can't, there's no fee, no cost. One of those services is a class action lawsuit claims assistance. Get involved with litigation whatsoever, but once a class action case has settled or getting close to settle, they will reach out to our clients and try to find new clients who may benefit from that class action, ask for all of the details, all the information needed to qualify a claim, and then file that claim on behalf of the company. And the reason this is so valuable is because almost no business is taking the time to track class actions. They're not filing their claims. They don't think that the return on investment's worth it. So we do all of that as a service. And there's a fee that comes in after the courts have cut the check. So there's no fee until you're actually getting a deposit in your bank account. And when we hear about class action lawsuits, we think $50, $100, and that's pretty common for consumer class actions. But for business class actions, those settlements are often 4, 5, or 6 figures. So it can have a huge impact because, again, there's almost no investment involved. It's just a little bit of data collection to qualify the claim. And then the service provider takes care of all of the back end and administrative work. And so when you get a 5 or 6 figure check or deposit, that's all additional revenues that had no expenses tied to them. That's perfect cash flow. Revenues coming in that's not tied to an expense.
Yeah, I love that.
And then there's another that I'm really excited about. One of the biggest killers of cash flow is attrition. Especially in the medical or tech sector, it can cost upwards of $100,000 to $150,000 to hire and replace somebody.
Mm.
So the recruiting cost, the training cost, and then you have the knowledge that's lost when somebody leaves, and you have the production that's lost when you have a seasoned employee leave. So if we can help companies and keep their employees longer, then that has a direct impact on cash flow. And so I found a company that has a service that it's a medical service, a medical benefit that's stacks on top of your major medical. So we're not asking companies to change their health insurance. This is something that adds on top of that, that gives them tax advantages that they don't get with their medical insurance. It gives the employees actually get to keep more of their paycheck because it's lowering their FICA tax. And for the employer, it's lowering their FICA tax because it's lowering their payroll tax amount. And in many states, that also has an impact on your workers' comp. So we can save up to 30% on workers' comp. And it's a net neutral expense. So you're actually going to save more than the benefit actually costs. And so the employers getting to improve cash flow, the employees are improving cash flow. And because they're healthier, they're more productive. They're not having as many lost days, and they're staying with the company.
Man, these are great that people don't know that they don't know. And that's one of my favorite phrases. It's like, hey, you don't know what you don't know, but it's probably costing you money because of it. So like always be a seeker of knowledge for this kind of stuff. And I mean, even if you had to ask AI for help, like, what do I not know that I need to be benefiting from? Right. And then who do I connect to? Right. That's when you reach out to me. But tell me this, what's your favorite way for people to come find you? Because at this point, they're thinking, I need to have this conversation with you because obviously you're doing this for them and you're having these initial conversations for free to say, let's check this out. And because you come with a gift, right? Tell me how you want me to have them come find you.
Yeah, the website is the easiest, srhmarketplace.com, but I'm also very active on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn just networking, building relationships, meeting new people. So if somebody sends me a DM on LinkedIn, it's going to get a response.
Nice. Can you reply to mine? I think I'm like a week behind on my messages. It is a tough place to go hang out on, but that's exactly where people need to be, right? They're business owners, they're on LinkedIn. So don't hesitate to reach out because you need to know Steven. But if you can't find him, because we kind of both have, like generic names that are super easy and replicatable, come find me. Then I'll introduce you to anybody you need to know. And it's going to be Steven first. Let's do this. I have a couple more questions. What is your favorite like nugget that you want to leave with people for, I guess, like your favorite piece of advice, or like, what does that look like for you that you want to share?
Yeah. What I want to leave with the audience is this. Our work is our worship. And if we are followers of Christ, we have to consider what we do and how we do it and how we treat people at work and how we treat clients and how we treat channel partners and how we treat vendors. All of that matters. We have to do it the way Christ treated us. And he treats us with grace. He leads with mercy and overwhelming kindness. And if we're not doing that at work, if we have a different personality at work than we have at home, if we have a different personality at work than we have on Sunday morning at church,
Yeah.
that needs to be corrected, because God does not look at us compartmentalized the way we like to compartmentalize. That's a hard word for me to say. He looks at us as a whole being, and in our work, our play, everything needs to glorify God. So remember, our work is our worship, and we need to treat it that way.
That's wonderful. This has been so fun. I love having you on the show. Tell us anything that you want to leave as a lingering, like what's on the horizon for you.
Yeah, so we've slowed way down on adding service providers to the marketplace because we're focused now on finding clients that we can help. But we do have a couple of exciting ones coming up. So keep an eye out on social media, on LinkedIn, and on the website for these upcoming service providers, because they're going to have huge impacts on our clients. And when somebody schedules a free consultation, I'm not throwing the whole menu at them at one time. We're going to find the one or two services that are best for them right now. And that's who we're going to introduce them to.
That's wonderful. I like it's like, let's do the most impactful one right now so that you can get some of that money back in your pocket or some of the savings.
Yeah.
That's
And
where
then
it's
if
all
I
at.
help them save 600 grand or 100 grand a year, then of course they're going to come back to me and say, what else you got?
Right? Hands down, sign me up more, more. Let's do that again. And then they'll tell their friends, right? Because it's like the business people out there are doing these networking events with other business people, and it all goes around full circle. I love it so much. Hey, thank you for being on the show. I love being able to chat with you and share the world about what it is that you're doing. Everybody go to his website, check him out, and then follow him and connect with him on LinkedIn. So that way you can hear about all the exciting stuff that he's going to be launching and putting on his marketplace. And then that's it. Like if you made it this far, thanks for staying to the very end. And I'm excited to see you guys on the next show. And one last time, thank you, Stephen, for coming out and hanging out with
Thank
us
you for
today.
the opportunity. This is fabulous.
I love it. All right. Bye, everybody.